Well, we've got some tough calls this week, don't we? Are we starting Tua against the Jets? Are we starting Patrick Mahomes against the Patriots? We're starting James Conner against the 49ers. We'll talk about some of these Week 15 tough calls, and we'll look ahead to the Thursday night game. Preview that. Well, we got the fantasy cops coming on today. That'll be fun. Everybody's got these a lot of people have the same issue. It's inactive commissioner or inactive managers and lineups that are screwing up who gets in the playoffs and things like that. So we'll try to sort out that mess. Good morning, Dave, Jamie, and Heath. Who's feeling great today?
Yeah.
Wow, hey. Looks like you guys are owning it.
Yeah. I got a trivia segment for you guys. I'm excited about it. We can start with it. You want to start with the trivia?
Yeah. That'll get us fired up. Let's go. Trivia.
Random trivia. I have one random trivia question about each position. Josh Allen is QB1 per game. He's averaging 27 points per game in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. When was the last time the number one quarterback averaged fewer than 27 points per game? Whoever's closest wins.
Does that give you the year or the player?
Either one.
Matt Ryan.
That's a great call.
Yeah, it's a good call.
Okay.
I'll say.
How about the year? Try the year. When was the last time the number one quarterback was worse than this on a per game basis?
What's the number again?
27 points.
2019.
Heath, give me a year.
2018.
Dave?
I feel like you're tricking us, and it's last year.
It's 2014. It was Andrew Luck.
I was thinking like pre-COVID when they did all the holding calls and changed the rules.
Yeah, and I was surprised. I mean, it's really been in some ways a down year for quarterbacks, in some ways a pretty good year for quarterbacks. You know, you got like good emerging quarterbacks. But all right,
it's a terrible year for quarterbacks.
It's a good year. It was not a bad year to stream quarterbacks.
It was a great year for waiting on quarterback and not drafting one early. I was looking at it last night. Like Tua's like QB 13 or 14 per game now, and he's still averaging more than 20 points per game.
Right.
We got plenty of depth at the position. We've got it's been really bad for the guys we drafted early.
Yeah, last year was a bad streaming year. All right. Here's a running back random trivia question. 4 of the top 5 running backs in PPR points per game were drafted outside the top 60. According to Fantasy Pros consensus PPR ADP. Name them. 4 of the top 5 running backs in PPR points per game were drafted outside the top 60.
Yeah, Mostert's the one.
Mostert.
Achane, Kyron Williams.
Points per game. Rashad White?
Oh, wow.
No. Good guess.
Oh,
no.
Was Kamara not
Kamara
in there? He was suspended at the beginning.
He was like 61. Unbelievable. And I tried to go back and find, I didn't go back that far, but I feel like this might be the first time that 2 running backs on the same team could finish top 5 in PPR points per game. The one that came to mind was Ingram and Kamara, but they were top 7. Amazing. Achane and Mostert are top 5 per game. Easier when one of them misses a lot of time, right?
Man, all right. If you talk to, I was talking to some Dolphins fans yesterday, and they would tell you that's probably not going to happen because they're never going to score points or win games again.
Yeah,
it's despondent Dolphins fans.
It's funny to be more excited about the Giants than the Dolphins.
Hey, got a better quarterback. What can you say? Who has the second most? Yeah, you got the. I love the celebration. Who has the second most targets among wide receivers, but is 13th in yards and 27th in touchdowns?
Second most targets among wide receivers for the season.
Yep, 13th in yards, 27th in touchdowns.
Is
Keenan Allen?
Diggs?
It's not Keenan Allen.
Stephon Diggs?
No.
Michael Pittman.
It is Michael Pittman. Yes, Michael Pittman. Crazy year for him. Ton of targets. All right, and then this one. Which division?
Future Chief?
Future anybody. Anybody.
I'll take anybody.
Which division has 3 of the top 6 tight ends in PPR?
NFC West.
Incorrect.
No, they only have 2.
Sorry, delayed. Incorrect.
NFC North? No.
NFC North. Schaefer knew it. Who are they?
Hawkinson, Laporta, Kmet.
Yeah, Komet, tight end 6. And I think he's tight end 7 per game. Well, there's your random trivia. All right. Welcome to the show, everybody.
So that was basically the fantasy feud segment that you decided you didn't want to have as a game show. So
Yeah.
you just called it random trivia. Got it.
Yeah, it was quick, though,
It was good. Interesting.
Get people's attention. You watch and you listen to the pod, you've got your best bets, and now it's time to follow your action. The best way to do that is on the CBS Sports app. It features lightning-fast live scoring for all major sports. You can track your favorite teams or just individual games you have an interest in with the click of a button. It's the way I get my breaking news. I watch live sports on the CBS Sports app, and now, it's just the best time with all these sports going on. This is the time to have the CBS Sports app, and it's totally free if you have an iPhone or an Android. And the easiest way to keep your finger on the pulse of every game that matters. You won't regret it. Check out the CBS Sports app. News and notes, Justin Herbert is out for the season. They've got the Raiders, the Bills, the Broncos, and the Chiefs. Nick Mullins is going to start for the Vikings. Keenan Allen has not been practicing this week. I feel like he's going to play. You guys feel like he's going to play?
We feel like he's going to play.
I hope he does.
And Josh Palmer is back. So let's combine news item number 1 with news item number 3. A good producer, talk about myself here, would have put those back to back in the notes.
You sure you're talking about yourself and not JPT?
Yeah, I have to do the notes here.
Sure, okay.
Trying to throw anyone under the bus, throwing myself under the bus.
Right.
Do you guys consider Keenan Allen a must-start player going forward, or are we going to wait and see what happens this week?
He's definitely a must-start guy in 3 receiver leagues. There's no doubt about it. I think in 2 receiver leagues, for the most part, you're starting him, just with the hope that Easton Stick continues to target him the way that Justin Herbert had targeted him. It's more of an offensive thing, and just the quality of targets will be a little bit worse. But look, it's the Raiders. They allow a lot of underneath throws. It's very difficult to have a lot better options than Keenan Allen.
I'd view him as a must start this week, and that's subject to change depending on how this week goes.
Heath, do you think Easton will stick?
For the rest of the season, yes.
I don't know, but it took the Vikings a little bit. They were Mullins over their decision.
Yeah. All right. Josh Jacobs missed practice, so I think
they used to have to ponder their quarterback, but not anymore.
Oh, nice. Did you get that from one of your cousins? Anyway, Josh Jacobs missed practice, and we're probably not expecting him at this point. Tyreek Hill is day-to-day. Miami center Connor Williams is out for the season with a torn ACL. I think at one point they had 4 backup linemen in last week. They are super beat up. They could get Teron Armstead back this week. Rob Hunt, another one of their injured linemen, has less of a chance to play this week. So
Quentin Williams.
Not a bad schedule to have coming up with 4 offensive linemen hurt. Yeah, the Jets, the Cowboys, and the Ravens defensive lines.
Yikes.
Good. They also have starting safety Deshaun Elliott in the concussion protocol for the Dolphins.
Earn your money, Mike McDaniel.
Yeah. Najee Harris missed practice. TJ Watt is in the concussion protocol. Both those guys are on the same team, and they're playing the Colts on Saturday on the road.
That's a good point to bring up, that there's 3 games Saturday.
There are. Yeah. I know 2 of them. I think I know all of them. You got the Lions and the Broncos, Colts, Steelers, and the other one is the Vikings game.
Yep.
Vikings-Bengals.
Vikings-Bengals, yeah. And Dan Campbell says he wants to get Jameson Williams more involved. Does that matter at all for anyone?
I thought you maybe just didn't delete that from 18 months ago.
No. All right, let's go to our tough calls here. Tua at the Jets. No, home against the Jets. And he's been better at home this year for sure. If Tyreek Hill doesn't play, Heath, is this even a tough call, or is he just a sit?
If Tyreek Hill doesn't play, then he's a sit for me. I'm ranking it. I don't know how Dave and Jamie are viewing this, but I'm ranking it as if Tyreek is going to play, but not quite be Tyreek, which puts Tua just outside of my top 12 quarterbacks. If we got a full practice in from Tyreek and everybody said he's fine, then I'd probably have Tua just inside of my top 12 quarterbacks. But it's kind of a messy situation because they played this team a month ago or less than, and put up more than 30 points. The offense did great. Tyreek was great. Waddle was great. And Tua had 9 fantasy points. And the Jets have been fantastic against quarterbacks this season. The way I started my quarterback preview was the number 14 quarterback in points per game is facing the defense that allows the 3rd fewest quarterback points to quarterbacks. It seems like an easy call. You sit that guy.
Since he's become the full-time guy for the Dolphins and taking away the Brian Flores in and out scenario that he dealt with, his last 3 games against the Jets, he's got 5 touchdowns, 6 turnovers, 1 game over 250 passing yards. The high was 273. So he just doesn't do well against this team to begin with. So Robert Saleh has his number. And so you're looking at a beat up offensive line, a defense that's playing great. They're all of a sudden rejuvenated, feeling like they may have a shot to make the playoffs, which seems ridiculous, but they're still mathematically alive in terms of the Jets. And the Dolphins are reeling a little bit right now. So I don't think it's a slam dunk that you're starting to. Like, if it sucks that he probably got you here, last week's game notwithstanding, but for the most part, he's been one of the best fantasy quarterbacks this season. And now you may have to bench him. Now the question is like, do you bench him for Jake Browning or Joe Flacco or any of these guys? Like, I wouldn't do that. But if you have clearly Purdy or Fields or any of these other guys that are
Stafford
in a much
Stafford,
Stafford,
right.
yeah, easy one.
Stafford.
And I will say this: if Geno Smith plays, I play Geno Smith over him too. Any of those guys, I think, are in a better spot than Tua this week.
And I'll go Browning over him if Tyreek's out.
Oh
We
yeah,
expect-
yeah. Tyreek's out is a different story.
For what it's worth, Tyreek looked like Tyreek in the 4th quarter. I mean, you saw the game. You saw those big plays that he had.
Well,
I
not
thought-
necessarily, because he was on the sidelines. Was not something that you see. Like their last drive, he wasn't on the field for the start of the drive. Like he's. I don't think he was able to cut as much as he would. Straight line speed was not an issue for him. It was the cut.
That's fair.
That was the
Straight line
thing.
speed is good enough. Not that I'm making the case for Tua, but
He was completely a decoy.
All right. Well, let's go on to Jared Goff. Jared Goff against Denver, who now is 8 games in a row, 9 games in a row with 9 games in a row. No quarterback has scored
points.
Yeah, those quarterback has scored 20 points in 9 straight games. That includes Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes twice, Josh Dobbs when he was red hot, CJ Stroud, and Justin Herbert. Yes, he left early. Justin Herbert threw 17 passes for 96 yards and scored 1 fantasy point against the Broncos. I mean, how could I even make the case to start Jared Goff at this point?
Yeah, no.
Can't do it. And his offensive line's in bad shape as well. And this Broncos secondary has been playing great. The pass rush has been good. I know Nick Bonito's down. We'll see what that does to them, but I still think they're going to be able to get after Goff. And this is a matchup tailor-made for the Lions' run game, because the one thing that the Denver Broncos have not been able to fix all year is their run defense. So I could very easily see them say, you know what? Let's get back to basics. We still have our starting tackles. One of our guards is playing pretty well. Let's lean on them. Let's lean on Gibbs and Montgomery. They started running the ball well a little too late in the game against Chicago. If they had turned to the run a little bit sooner, I think that they would have had a shot to compete in that game. And I think that's what they're going to do against Denver.
I mean, the only thing that makes it difficult is that Jared Goff, you see this 19 fantasy points per game. He has been a massively different quarterback indoors versus outdoors, like 9 fantasy points per game different. It has the few road games he's had that are in domes, he's even been okay. So yeah, I think Goff's right there in the Tua conversation right now.
All right. What about Mahomes? Is Mahomes ahead of these guys? He's at New England. He really hasn't had a big game. And week 12, he scored about 25 points. That was pretty good at Las Vegas. New England is 6th best against quarterbacks. And here's kind of a weird angle. Mahomes is averaging the 2nd most yak per completion, yards after the catch per completion, well behind number 1, Brock Purdy. The 49ers lead that category basically every year. But Mahomes is a very low ADOT guy with a lot of yards after catch. The Patriots give up the 3rd fewest yards after catch per reception. So they're very good at eliminating that. And I went back. I kind of looked like, is there a correlation? Does he do well against teams that struggle in that? And that kind of is, actually. His best games have, for the most part, come against teams that struggle in that area. But also, like, he's just not getting it done for fantasy purposes here. So is Patrick Mahomes a tough call for you this week?
Less of a tough call than Tua and Goff. I don't think Goff's that tough of a call. I'm sitting him. But my first question is this when it comes to Mahomes. If the touchdown had counted last week, would we even be having this conversation? He would have had 22.6
He doesn't get
fantasy
the
points.
He wouldn't have gotten that touchdown.
Nope.
Yeah, he would have.
No, it doesn't.
He doesn't get credit for the touchdown.
No.
I
It's a run
talked to
by
our
Kadarius
people
Toney.
about it. They said he would have.
Oh,
No, it's a run by Tony. He gets the completion to Kelsey,
Right.
and then the lateral goes to Tony, and Tony gets a rushing touchdown.
Okay. So if I'm mistaken, then he still would have been a bad game. If he had thrown the ball to Kelsey and Kelsey had run in for a touchdown, obviously. But the question is, even if he had scored 22.6, I think there would still be some trepidation about whether or not Mahomes has the sky high upside. And this is a tough matchup. You know, I know that the Steelers made the Patriots defense look amazing last week, but I still think the Patriots defense is just good overall. I've got the FOMO with Mahomes. I'm going to rank him as a top 10 quarterback.
Oh, he's still top 10, but I mean, look, Purdy's easy at this point. You're starting him over Mahomes. I'm starting Stafford over him this week. That's no question for me. I would start Fields over him this week, just with the upside of what Fields has brought and should continue to bring, even a tough matchup against the Browns, who've given up some big games of quarterbacks the last 2 weeks. And then it comes down to if Christian Watson plays, I might go with Jordan Love over Mahomes. And I'm almost there with Trevor Lawrence as well.
oh, wow.
They're all in that group. I've got Mahomes, Fields, Lawrence, 7, 8, 9 in my rankings. And that was just the initial look.
Why was 6 afraid of 7, Dave?
Why?
7, 8, 9.
Because 7 heard your humor.
You never heard that joke?
Of course.
What?
You've heard that.
How could they be afraid of anything?
Okay. Heath, unless you have anything else to say about Mahomes, we'll move on.
No, I've got him 6, so it's right in that same range.
All right, 6 to 8 for everyone here for Patrick Mahomes. Must not be a great quarterback week, I guess.
Well, that's where he's 7 for the year, so we're pretty much just ranking him where he's been for the
he's
year.
8th per game.
Yes, because of Joe Flacco's passed him with his 2 games.
Oh,
right.
Did I not eliminate Flacco? All right, then he might be 7th per game. All right, then let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about some running backs here, including Austin Eckler. Actually, maybe we'll skip Eckler since we're going to talk about him in a little bit with the Thursday night preview. So it'll be James Conner and Javonte Williams, and then wide receivers and a tight end, and we'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today.
Wake up to football highlights and news from around the world with the one and only Morning Footy team.
Rise and shine, football fans. Welcome to Morning Footy.
Start your all-day football craze with Morning Footy, part of the all-new Golazo Network.
Okay, let's go to DeAndre Swift. This guy is really slumping. Single-digit PPR fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 games, and 2 straight games with 4 points. 3.9 at Dallas, 4 points against San Francisco. I mean, that is like hard to believe. Is he a tough call this week at Seattle on Monday night? They have been a pretty easy matchup, 5th most fantasy points allowed to running backs, but he's really in a rut. Jamie, is DeAndre Swift a tough call for you?
Absolutely. Just based on how he's been playing, this offensive line has not been, the same to what it was early this year and certainly what it was last year. The biggest concern is, and I think we've kind of seen this a little bit, as they've started to fall behind in games, he just hasn't been as productive. Now, he did have the 6 targets against San Francisco in that loss, but it felt like he was just not involved to the same level, and certainly he wasn't catching the ball despite the 6 targets. So they said last week they have to get back to the run. It really was a bad game to go that route because of how the expected game flow would go. I think for most of us viewing it, thought that Dallas would be able to score on them, and they did. And then once they got behind, why would they try and run? But this feels like a good bounce back spot. I think if this is in Philadelphia, I feel a lot more, confident in it. So like I have Swift in one league, and the decision that I'm struggling with is Swift versus Zach Moss, who's obviously been struggling as well. And so matchup to me favors Swift, but that Moss is getting his touches. So right now I have Moss ahead of Swift, but they're very, very close. I would not be opposed to starting Swift if you don't have a better option. Like, Ty Chandler versus Swift is an easy conversation to have. You can see both sides of it. Jerome Ford versus DeAndre Swift, that's another tough call. And that's kind of where he is. Went from a slam dunk top 10 guy to now a borderline number 2 guy, maybe closer just to a flex.
But I will say if he can be good, this week, then he's going to go back to a slam dunk, not top 10 guy, I think, in the semifinals and the championship. His schedule gets a lot better after this week, I believe.
It's the Giants and the
I
Cardinals.
think to your point, Heath, about what you said, if he can be good this week, he could be great this week just
Right.
because the matchup is so favorable. So it's a hard guy to get away from, knowing that Seattle has been as bad as they have.
Does anybody think the Seahawks compete with
Absolutely.
Philly, or maybe even like lead Philly in the game? Because that's what I think it'll take for Swift to deliver another dud.
Yeah,
Not
absolutely. I mean, Philly's struggling right now.
Yeah. I would rather, for Geno, if they had Geno, I'd feel more confident. I'll say this about Seattle. They give up a lot of reception. They give up a lot of passing game, production to running backs. And I went back, I looked at Swift in those matchups against teams that struggle against pass catching running backs, and it has not made a single difference. It's not like he takes advantage of those matchups. If Jalen Hurts wants to throw it to him, he will, but most of the times he just doesn't.
Well, I mean, the problem is just, we've said this for the last couple of weeks. He's not going to get goal line opportunities. Well, I mean, the whole season. He's not going to get goal line opportunities because of the tush push. He's not going to be heavily involved in the passing game. You just said it, Adam. It's not like it's a matchup thing or a game script thing. So he could run for, 100 yards and get you 10 points, and that's all you're looking at.
He has 3 games this year with 6 or more targets. It was against the Niners, it was against the Rams, and against the Jets. These are teams with good defensive fronts that can rush the quarterback. Maybe they use him in those types of situations. This week is not one of those situations.
Right. But I mean, look at the Cowboys games. He didn't do it against the Cowboys, and they also
Didn't have a single target against the Cowboys.
Right. All right. Moving on to
targets in 2 games against Dallas all year.
Javonte Williams at Detroit. And if you follow this podcast, you know what you're doing here. You know that Detroit, they've had a great run defense all year. What makes this, to me anyway, a little bit difficult for Javonte is that last week was the first week. This is obviously a very small sample size. First week without defensive tackle Lee McNeil, and they gave up 4.55 yards per carry to Deontay Foreman. They might, and they're slumping a little bit against the run, a little bit. That might be a big difference for them, not having arguably their best run stuffer on the defensive line. And here's Javonte Williams, who typically gets 17 or more carries. So Heath, is this a tough call for you? Javonte at the Lions.
He is a tough call. I do have him just ahead of Swift right now. I like the fact that he's caught 3 passes in each of his last 3 games. I like the fact that you're seeing somewhere in that 17 carry range most of the time. And I think maybe a bigger thing is just that Denver pass defense has been so good that they're playing competitive games. So he's a low-end number 2 running back. I think it's very possible that you could have 2 guys that you would rather start over him. It's also very possible that you've got somebody like James Conner, or for me, like DeAndre Swift, that you don't want to start.
Okay.
He's pretty safe for 70 total yards as a floor. And I think that he'll be somewhere between 70 and 90 against the Lions. I do buy into the Lions' run defense being worse without McNeil. I believe in Javonte being the lead running back for the Broncos, but there is 3 ways that last week each of their running backs had at least 20% of the snaps. And Javonte works the goal line most of the time. The touchdown is the one thing that makes him a little bit hard to trust. Can he get that score? And he's only scored in 3 games this year. So
1 rushing. That's how
I'm going to have him as a number 2 running back, but closer to a low end. I'd rather start Swift.
All right. Next up is James Conner, Jamie. He's got San Francisco. Is he the lowest ranked running back that we've discussed so far? Swift, Javonte, and now James Conner.
Yes, he should be. Just based on how matchups should go. And look, he was great in what I thought was a tough matchup against Pittsburgh, but clearly that's not the case. And he destroyed them with the 2 touchdowns and 100 yards rushing. So, he's going to get the carries. The passing down work has always been a question for him this season. And he has been a little bit more involved catching the ball lately. I want to see what the receiving core looks like for the Cardinals, because going into the bye, Marquise Brown had a heel injury. Michael Wilson still not playing with the shoulder injury. And so if he doesn't have those 2 guys, then I think Connor's role in the passing game will probably pick up a little bit. To what degree, we'll find out. But obviously San Francisco's defense has been amazing. Hopefully Greenlaw from their side plays, to keep that defense rolling. So I don't think Connor's a slam dunk. I'd start Swift over him. I'd start Williams over him. I think both those guys have a higher ceiling.
I've got him behind those guys. I have all 3 of them within like half of a point in my PPR projections. So I do think it's really close. Here's a fun, you'll especially enjoy this, Adam.
Okay.
James Conner averaged 4.2 yards per carry in that great game against the Steelers a couple weeks ago. That was his lowest yards per carry in a game this season.
He's been good.
He does not have a game below 4.2 yards per carry.
That's actually really impressive. Really impressive. Good for him.
How much work is he going to get if the 49ers build a lead?
Right. That's so concerning.
It might not even be 15 touches, and that's what scares me off Connor.
So also just saw that Zach Wilson and Tommy DeVito are the AFC and NFC players of the week from last week. And someone said this is not the first person who's to say this. Adam looks like DeVito's agent without the hat and chain. Do you think I look like that guy?
Like
Could
Sean
you
Stellato?
get the hat and chain?
I could. Someone said that should be my Halloween costume. That was ridiculous.
That would be fantastic. I guess I'll say this, even though it's kind of embarrassing. I did put in a couple claims in deeper leagues for Zach Wilson, just because if he looks like it kind of looked like something clicked last week. And if he looks like that again this week, he faces Washington next week.
That's right.
I'm probably not going to start him, but I don't necessarily want to face him if I'm playing somebody like Dave, who's been rotating through Tommy DeVito and Joe Flacco and Jake Browning in our YOLO league. I don't want to leave a guy like Zach Wilson out there just in case.
Does Dave have an illegal lineup again?
He does. I've already addressed the issue. And John Bosch, I forgot, has a great solution for this. He gives a warning, and then if the warning is not heeded, there's a website called 100 Yard Dash, and you can enter in people's names and have them run a race. And so he will just enter in all the players on your team into the 100 Yard Dash, and whoever wins the race gets dropped.
I like that.
Why would you adjust my roster before it needs to be adjusted?
Because you're breaking the rule continually.
You're hoarding players from other managers.
I have one extra player on my team.
Why does the one
cut
matter?
somebody before Thursday when my lineup goes legal.
I mean, I'm a bit of a hypocrite here because I have Josh Palmer in a few leagues, and I know I have to drop him, and I haven't dropped him yet.
Wait, is he on your IR?
Yeah, he's on my IR.
See?
But Dave's bad at this. Okay, wide receivers.
Well, he's mad because he's wrong.
Well, he's right in the sense that he doesn't have to do it until Thursday.
I don't. The rules of our league state that I don't have to do it until game.
No, there's nowhere
I
that
will
says
do it
states
until game
that.
start.
The commissioners told you repeatedly that you do have to do it before Thursday.
Okay. Well, maybe you should do what you do to everybody else who has a problem in fantasy cops and kick me out of the league.
Yeah, easier said than done, kicking people out of the league. All right, wide receivers, just because we're running a little long here, I'm going to lump these wide receivers together. Jamar Chase against Minnesota, Adam Thielen against Atlanta, Drake London in that same game at Carolina, and Amari Cooper against Chicago. These are actually tough matchups, really. I mean, maybe you could argue Atlanta, but Atlanta's kind of had a sneaky good defense this year. But Jamar Chase, Adam Thielen, Drake London, and Amari Cooper. Jamie, do you feel like we have any non-tough calls there? Any easy calls there?
I'm not starting Thielen. Still, at best, the number 3 receiver. It's very difficult to sit Jamar Chase, even though he has 2 bad games and 1 good one with Jake Browning. I actually like Amari Cooper this week. I just like the fact that he's getting as many targets as he has been from Joe Flacco. So, to me, he's a safe number 2 wide receiver. And then, was there anybody else?
Yeah, London.
Oh, London, I would try and get away from. He's just been much better at home than on the road. And the Panthers, for whatever it's worth, they just don't give a lot of production in passing game. So, starter in 3 receiver leagues, not a must-start guy in 2 receiver leagues.
Chase is a really interesting one to me here. It's like, I understand he's going to be a start for most people. You don't want to leave that potential on the bench, but they are running the ball a lot with Jake Browning. He's barely throwing. Obviously, he's got the super low ADOT. Throwing to the running backs a decent amount. And let's see, Minnesota in their last 10 games, only 4 receivers have more than 66 yards against them. They haven't faced the toughest competition, but I thought that was pretty impressive. Anyway,
Chase is the one that I'm just starting and not thinking about. For me, London, Thielen, and Cooper are all in that 25 to 30 range at wide receiver.
But did Chase crack your top 12?
No.
He might be 13.
Okay. Right. So, I don't have any Chase teams, but I know my wife does, and she'll be sitting him for Debo and like one other stud, I forget. So you could be in those situations. Obviously, like we wouldn't expect Jamar Chase at this point in the season to be outside the top 12. He's not a slam dunk. All right. Okay, guys. Dallas Goedert. Want to give your thoughts on Dallas Goedert? We have him as a tough call at Seattle. Seattle, middle of the pack against tight ends. Been kind of bad lately. Goddard had, 4 targets last week? So, Dave, is Dallas Goedert a tough call for you?
A little bit of a tough call. He's a low-end start because I can't say that he's definitely going to be a big part of their game plan against Seattle. It would make so much sense just going back to Swift and thinking it through. They've talked about, Jamie mentioned this, they've talked about running the ball more and being better with the run. Wouldn't that make Goddard more of a blocker than a route runner this week? And so it makes me nervous to trust him. He's outside of my top 10. He's at 11. He's ahead of Isaiah Likely. That's when I could see myself switching because I just have no faith in the Jaguars pass defense on Sunday night against Baltimore.
This is a guy whose fantasy points per game, or I wouldn't say it's misleading, but he's averaging like almost right at 10 PPR fantasy points per game. He has topped 10 twice all season long.
Right. In 10
games. He's played 10 games, 8 of them he's been single-digit fantasy points.
Yeah. 2 games with more than 50 yards this year for Goddard. The question for me is, do I want to try to stream? Or do I drop Goddard?
Likely is the only one that you're streaming over him.
Yeah. But how confident do you feel in that?
Not at all. But I do
Not
it.
likely.
What did you say, Jamie?
Not likely confident.
I would start Likely, but I don't feel confident in it. No, that's why it's a tough call.
Yeah, no, I think Dave said it. Matchup is certainly in his favor. I think the one thing with Goddard is how much of last week was, the shake the rust off game after the long layoff. And just knowing that, this was the problem all season long for him. And we said it in the preseason that it's like the 49ers. When you have a talented team like this, there's going to be a numbers crunch and somebody's going to get left out. And right now, Goddard is getting left out a little bit, or at least last week was getting left out. So, he's not a slam dunk by any stretch. If you've played Ferguson, you're playing Ferguson. Kmet, you're playing Kmet. Obviously, Njoku and Ingram. So there's no real, I think, slam dunk situation for Goddard. But to say you'd be playing the replacements that you've had, the Gerald Everetts, the Tyler Conklins, the Cade Ottens, he's better than those guys, or at least should be.
Yeah. Okay. And he did play his normal snaps. You're playing 84% of the snaps last week. So sometimes guys come back like, no, Olave's not a case of that. Olave was sick. Olave only played 2/3 of the snap. Sometimes guys come back from injury. They don't play their full snap share. That wasn't the case, but there still could have been some rust shaken off for sure. Okay. Los Angeles. Oh, Dave, it's time for Thursday Night Football. Los Angeles Chargers at the Las Vegas Raiders. Stat of the game. I talked about this on Beyond the Box Score on Monday. There are a number of wide receivers who are outside the top 20 in points per game who feel kind of like must starts, like Chris Olave. Devontae Adams is one of them. That's where I'm going with this. And they a lot of them have the same thing in common. Amari Cooper's one. They just don't catch touchdowns. And Devontae Adams caught 3 touchdowns in his first 3 games. He has 1 touchdown catch since then. And Aiden O'Connell has 3 touchdown catches in his last touchdown passes in his last 5 starts since taking over Jimmy Garoppolo. So we've been talking about tough calls. Adams, it feels like, is a little limited by the fact that he pretty much never catches touchdowns. Heath, is Devontae Adams a tough call for you in this game against the Chargers?
If we're calling a top 15 wide receiver a tough call, then I think he is. He's right around 15 to 18 for me in the rankings, and which seems awfully high for a tough call, but I don't feel great about it. I think he's probably going to score somewhere in that 12 to 13 range, and you hope he scores a touchdown.
Would you guys start the surging Rashee Rice or Devontae Adams?
Rice.
Still Adams for me.
I believe I have Rice higher.
Would you start Jamar Chase or Devontae Adams?
Chase.
Okay.
I'd also start Keenan Allen over Devontae Adams.
That's my next question.
Yeah, I would too.
Do you guys think that they have big games? How
No.
likely is it that they have big games, Allen and Adams?
I mean, you just made the case why Adams might not have a big game, and Keenan Allen's got Easton Stick now as his quarterback. So, look, they're not playing the best defenses in the world. So that's the hope, is that, certainly from Adams' perspective, we've seen a lot of big plays against the Chargers. So hopefully that's where he comes to play. Like, I think it's similar to what we were talking about with some of these other receivers. You have to have a very stacked lineup to bench a Davante Adams, to bench a Keenan Allen, just because of what they are still capable of doing. And as Heath kind of said, the floor has been there for Adams, even with the bad quarterback. 12 to 14 points is kind of where he's been the last 3 weeks. So why would that necessarily change facing this defense? So I don't love him. As you see, I'm if you're watching our stream, I'm the lowest on Davante Adams, but he's still a number 2 wide receiver. So Rice, I would start over him. The touchdown dependent Cortland Sutton, I start over him. Both Rams guys, I start over him. Amari Cooper, start over him. DeAndre Hopkins, I start over him. I don't know how far you want to go, but that's kind of where it is for me.
So who's the best flex option in this game? It's such a shame. You think about this game with Eckler, Jacobs, Adams, Keenan Allen, in theory, Herbert. What could have been? This could have been a great fantasy game to kick off the fantasy playoffs. It doesn't look like that. Dave, is there anyone in this game that you love?
The DSTs as sleepers.
Probably not. You don't even love them.
I don't even love them. Look, I think you can trust Austin Eckler. I like the matchup for Eckler. I like how he looked last week. I think he's playing a little bit better, and I think Easton Stick will be good for Austin Eckler. And I think Easton Stick proved by the end of last week's game that he's not the worst passer in the world and that he can be solid for them. So Keenan Allen's downgraded, but he's still going to get a lot of targets. He's still going to be Keenan Allen. So those two are the guys I like the most. Davante Adams, for me, is no better than a low-end receiver too. And that's really about it. The only guys I would say are like sleepers are the DSTs.
Okay.
I'd go Allen, Adams, Eckler is my top 3.
Okay, so that implies to me that you're a little low on Eckler.
Yeah, I think I was the one who submitted him as the tough call, and I might be the only one who thinks that he's a tough call. And I do think it's a good matchup in terms of dump off passes, because that's what the Raiders give up. But it's just hard, as I know he had a 100-yard game, exactly 100 yards, I believe, last week. And so maybe he's back, but as bad as he's been for most of the last 4 or 5 weeks. And this Raiders team did just face a backup quarterback and play a 3-0 game for the entire game. And they've been better defensively since the coaching change. So I think I think the implied total right now for the Chargers is 15.5. So I don't love Eckler's touchdown chances. And he is still going to split. Like the lower percentage of the touches thing happened. He just caught a few more passes.
Yeah. Fair. You guys are all starting Zeke over Eckler?
Yes.
No.
Dave and Jamie have them back-to-back with Eckler 1 spot ahead. Heath has Zeke 4th. Maybe we should talk about him today. All right, how about Eckler or Cooper Kupp?
Eckler.
I like Kupp a lot.
Kupp.
Eckler or Travis Etienne against the Ravens?
Eckler
and
Etienne.
PPR.
All right, so Dave and Jamie have Eckler around 12th. Heath has him a little bit lower, like 16th. And then we've talked about Keenan Allen and Davante Adams. I don't know that there's anything else in this game. How about a tight end? Gerald Everett, he's been all right lately.
Not with Stick and with Palmer back.
Rather have Goedert.
All right. Let's talk about the Raiders running back. Sorry. If Josh Jacobs somehow plays, how much would you like him? And then if not, any interest in Abdullah or White?
Jacobs might be my favorite play in the game if he comes back, but he's got to get in some practice and all that stuff first. I would like him quite a bit. If he doesn't play, I would imagine it's Zamir White on rushing downs, Abdullah on passing downs, and don't really love either one of those guys. Abdullah would be the desperation play, especially in PPR.
All right. Yeah, try to avoid them. I'm not going to drag this out anymore. That's it for Thursday Night Football, Dave.
No. Punt.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we got the Fantasy Cops. We got some Dynasty Talk. and your emails at fantasyfootball@cbsi.com.
Well, you need your sports news anywhere?
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
It is Fantasy Cops time, baby. We've got one from Mike. He says, Dear Kevin, Ralphie, Clark, and Buddy. Very easy, guys. This is a layup.
Christmas movie characters.
Yes, thank you.
No John in there or Hans.
Oh, get out of town. 12-team league. I snuck into the playoffs as the 6th seed. Our waivers go by inverse order of standings. Since I'm in the last playoff spot, I should have the first waiver claim. I put in a claim for Zeke, but I wake up in the morning to find out that the team that's in 7th place and out of the playoffs put in a waiver claim and blocked me from getting Zeke. I ended up with Ty Chandler. There is no written rule, but anybody who plays fantasy should know that this is a violation. Though not a large payout, there is still prize money involved. What do I do?
So the team out of the playoffs made a waiver claim?
Yep.
Get him, Heath.
You just reverse the waivers and you get Zeke.
Good job, Heath.
You should. Although he did say there's no, like, I assume this has been a league has been going for a while, and he said there's no rule against teams adding. Is there a toilet bowl?
It doesn't seem like it. But also, what do you do with Ty Chandler? He got Ty Chandler. He may not have gotten
You can just hold him until Sunday at 8 p.m. and then drop him at the last
Thursday
day.
at 8 p.m.
No, but seriously, I mean, I just ran into this problem in the podcast league. I don't know. You guys probably didn't notice. The 4 of us, we all missed the freaking playoffs in the podcast league. That's bad.
I had a terrible year.
So what was I going to say? Yeah, somebody in 8th place put in a bid, which pissed me off. Why'd you do that? I sent the note out. I said, if you're out of the playoffs, don't put.
That's an easy one. It's when it's been communicated or when it's clearly a rule. It's very, very easy.
Yeah, I'm going to put, it was Parker Washington. I'm going to put him back on waivers, up for bid. Thankfully, he's not playing on Thursday. But this is a little bit more difficult because I don't know what to do with Ty Chandler. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott should go to this guy. What you have to do, I think, is provide a screenshot that shows your waiver claim for Zeke. And if, because it didn't get accepted, hopefully you have a screenshot of it. Now, if you can do that, then you get him.
Yeah. It should have been communicated before because it's really, really messy if this guy's the commissioner and they've never had this issue before and now he's going to make this change for himself.
Is the move to show that you should get Zeke because you put in a claim for him, or should it be the commissioner just takes Zeke off the team and Zeke goes back up to claim and you reset the waiver order? So you just basically have to make the claim again to get Zeke.
Yeah, right.
Either way, you should have Zeke, no questions asked.
I just think that the Ty Chandler thing is a conundrum at this point because
he wants both.
No, he wanted Zeke, but he got Chandler. So what if the team that was behind him in the
waivers? You just put everybody back.
Put him out back.
Yeah, maybe that's what you do.
Yeah, there you go. That's easy. All right, good job. We could have said that 5 minutes ago. We did.
I did.
Oh, I didn't hear you. Sorry. All right, from Richie. Hey, Adam, Dave, Jamie, and Heath. I'll Google it. 12-team Superflex Dynasty League. Me and another guy were both on the edge of making the playoffs. 101 in the rookie draft is given to the winner of the consolation bracket. We decided to tank and remove players from our lineup to get into the consolation bracket to compete for 101. There are no rules in our bylaws that prevent tanking or starting and an illegal or empty lineup. We were successful and both have a bye in the consolation bracket. Some other owners were not happy and called our tactics, quote, Bush League, and that we should, quote, take a real loss like a man, end quote. LOL. Where do you guys stand on this strategy?
You should update your bylaws. Nothing wrong with tanking in Dynasty, but you should have rules that reflect it.
Now that's spoken like the perfect Dynasty League commissioner.
Okay. I Googled Adam, Dave, Jamie, and Heath, and the only thing that came up is our show. I thought maybe.
No, I just sent you a link of something that came up.
What is it?
Click it. It's on YouTube.
What? This is gonna be.
Is Dave sending porn again?
Oh.
No. It's on YouTube. It's totally safe.
Weird.
This isn't like last time.
All right, this is from Mark. Dear Carson, Boomer, and Joe. Oh, sorry. Carson, Boomer, and Joe. Yeah, that's the Sports Talk Radio. I'm in a 10-team league where 4 teams make the playoffs. The top 3 seeds are locked. The 4th seed is up for grabs. The current 4th seed is in a close matchup with someone who is not making the playoffs and is playing Aaron Jones, who did not play Monday night. By the way, I believe this was written on Monday.
All right.
Right before the game, the commissioner, who's the current number 1 seed, texted him and told him to take Aaron Jones out. Remember, this is the current 4 seed because he's not playing. And he did this, and he picked up and started Tajay Spears. He only did this when a few members of the league who have playoff implications reached out to him about this. The question is, should the commissioner have texted and told the manager to adjust his lineup and take out Aaron Jones? Even though there have been multiple instances this year when people didn't start someone and the commissioner did not step in. The team that is striving for the last place spot is arguing that since he did not reach out to people during the year, multiple times when people did not start anyone, the commissioner had no right to reach out to someone at this time of year. I would agree.
It's like Kadarius Toney's offsides. Like, when do you call it? When do you decide to call it? I don't have a problem with it.
You don't have a problem with the commissioner telling this guy to take Jones out of the lineup?
No.
I do.
You literally change people's lineups for them.
So that's a little different. That's a tanking thing where they have an illegal lineup based on our tanking rules. In this particular case, I don't want to influence who's getting into the playoffs by being selective about when I'm telling teams to put active players in. You either have to do it all the time or you do it never. Because he's right. If you played that team and
it's just a commissioner thing, like what if the 2 seed had sent the person a text?
This is where I was.
Or the 3 seed, the people who were fighting for it.
I think
I've definitely texted people and said, "Hey, I know this doesn't matter to you, but could you please set a lineup this week?"
We had a situation in my keeper league where my brother-in-law kept Taysom Hill in at tight end, and David Njoku was on his bench, and my brother-in-law's out of it. He has no chance of making the playoffs, and it affected his game. He would have won if he had started Njoku, and the guy that he played is in the playoffs, and the guy who was in a different matchup is out because of my brother-in-law's move. And the commissioner didn't reach out to him, which I agree with. I don't think the commissioner should be a babysitter. I think the commissioner should be a commissioner.
Yeah.
And but if there was somebody else in the league that was like, "Hey, man, I noticed that you've got, Taysom Hill in your lineup. He's not going to play. Would you mind making a switch? It'll help us both." I'm okay with that. That's part of the game.
Yeah, I feel like you can't police that, first of all.
Of course not. But if the commissioner is going to be babysitter and then go on and heaven forbid the commissioner changes lineups for people.
No, that shouldn't happen.
That's even worse. But the commission shouldn't be a babysitter. The commission should set the rules. When the rules are broken, he steps in. When there's another problem, he solves it fairly, and that's that. And that's not a commentary on what we talked about earlier.
No, and also it shouldn't be commentary on me in the Dynasty League because basically it's all Schneier's fault. Schneier screws up every lineup. And
pass the buck at him.
All right. Thank you for the Fantasy Cop submissions. Let's talk a little Dynasty here and not about the Bake Burger Dynasty League. Dynasty quarterback. Actually, I swear, Heath, this is a legitimate topic. Okay. I don't want this to come off as a dig or a troll.
No, I am going to take it completely and entirely only as a dig and a troll.
Okay, fine. You drafted this juggernaut team in the Bake Burger Dynasty League. We thought there's no even point in competing this year. He's got Cooper Kupp and Travis Kelce and Joe Mixon and Aaron Jones, and he drafted Justin Fields with his first pick of a Superflex league. And this everything went wrong for you.
Right.
And you didn't tank. So you have, I think, the 4th pick in the draft.
I have the 4th pick, yeah.
What did this teach you, if anything, about a win now strategy with older players?
It didn't teach me anything. It's inherently risky. You just have to recognize that risk. And especially if you don't enjoy the rebuild as much as I do, you shouldn't do it. Because I am very, very content in Dynasty to either be contending for the 1 seed or contending for the 1 pick. There are a lot of people who would much rather just try to fight for that 6th seed. And it has its merit because we see 6 seeds win championships every year across our leagues. It's just a philosophical thing. Some people hate the idea of going through a 2-year tank. I really enjoy it, so I'm okay with it. But it's just philosophically, you've got to make sure you're okay with the downside of it. And I've got the 4th pick. I picked up some young guys. I'm not missing any picks from next year. I still feel okay.
You should. It's a good situation, and no one wants to be in the middle. Like if you ask anybody,
well, some people are okay with it.
But I don't know if anybody really likes floating between, being the 6th seed or just missing the playoffs for like 3 years in a row in a dynasty league.
Yeah,
I think it depends on what your situation is. Like if you're ending up finishing 4th through 6th because you've had 2 key injuries or 1 key injury or something that's caused your team to not succeed, but the roster you built going into it was championship caliber. You just I should have made this trade, or I should have missed this free agent pickup, or whatever the case may be. But if that continues to happen, then you have to make some self-evaluation. But I think in case of if you're competing to just make the playoffs and that's been your issue for the last several years, then yes, it's time to blow it up.
I have tried very hard in multiple leagues to try to get people to see the things the way you are talking about them, Dave, and people who are obviously not contenders in my mind, but maybe could find the 6th seed, trying to get them to sell parts for picks and having no luck, or trying people who are in the 5 or 6 seed, but probably not contenders yet, trying to get them to take veterans for picks.
Yeah.
Some people just
about that
are not that interested in going either direction.
But that's the beauty of dynasty. Everybody's got their own opinion on their team, and every year you've got to go back and look at your dynasty rosters and say, okay, can I contend next year? And if you look at the roster and you're not even sure, then you can't. That's a no. You have to be really sure that you can contend in order to move forward like a contender. But it's that self-evaluation that Jamie talked about.
All right, let's talk about dynasty quarterback risers and fallers here. And Heath, who are some of the recent risers?
2 guys I've got rising: Justin Fields and Brock Purdy. And I think for Fields, and Chris and I talked about this on the Dynasty show yesterday with both these guys, but Fields in particular, I just don't believe, even if the Bears draft a quarterback, as bad as the quarterback play has been in the NFL this season, that Justin Fields is not going to be a starter somewhere. And he's reminded us over the last month that when he's a starter and he has a coaching staff that's not trying to make him a pocket passer, he's a top 5 or 6 fantasy starter. So he was in that, could things go really bad a month ago? And the boat's been steadied a little bit.
He could even end up in a better situation next year.
Atlanta, please get to Atlanta
with new coaching staff.
They're going to release a statement saying they're not interested in Justin Fields. Remember they did that with Lamar Jackson?
Yeah.
Why? What kind of feedback did you get when you asked on Twitter, make the case for Lawrence over Purdy in Dynasty?
Mostly Lawrence backers who were really mad at me for asking the question.
And who do you have ahead of Purdy? Or
I have Purdy currently ahead of Lawrence. I understand. I got a lot of responses about he's tall and his hair. And then a lot of responses that Purdy's not going to have 4 great weapons forever. But I think with Lawrence, it's just, you really have to believe in the profile and just ignore the fantasy production the first basically 3 years of his career, because so far he's been basically a replacement level fantasy quarterback the last 2 years.
Okay.
In a 1 quarterback league.
Yeah. Let's go to our dynasty quarterback fallers.
Trevor Lawrence, I think. Oh, well, these aren't as interesting. Although I've got Tua. I don't know what to do with him. He's bounced from 7 to 12, and he's currently 12 right now. But I think in relation to Fields, it shocked me to see that he's just averaging 20 fantasy points per game this season. And he's not a top 12 quarterback right now. And when is the situation ever going to be better than it is right now for Tua Tagovailoa?
What did he average last year? Had to be more than 20. Well, he kept leaving games early and stuff, but
you could AIDS or stat it to a big number, but
I mean, I feel like he was awesome last year when he was healthy, but he never rushes. He never scores a rushing touchdown. So It's weird, and I think people are wondering, is Tua good? People don't really know. I feel like people don't really know how to feel about Tua as a quarterback. He could be just a product of the system and the talent around him.
I mean, he's obviously good. There's no question about that. He's definitely benefiting.
Put him on the Giants. How good do you think he is?
Not as good as he is with mine.
I think he's crap. I think he's crap on the Giants.
Oh, well, I mean, look. What's Brock Purdy on the Giants? What's Trevor Lawrence on the Giants? I mean, wasn't a lot of players when they don't have great. A lot of quarterbacks that don't have great players around them are not very good. I mean, I'm trying to think like what would Mahomes' career have been like if he got drafted to the Bears?
Yeah, it's a good call. He wouldn't be a 2-time Super Bowl champ.
So, look, there's obviously a benefit to great coaching and great talent around you, and Tua is a byproduct of that. I mean, we've said this about a lot of players when they've gotten these receivers. Jalen Hurts popped when he got AJ Brown. Josh Allen popped when he got Stephon Diggs. I mean, that's the nature of what these situations are. But yes, Tua is good.
I think Tua is good. Yes, yeah,
is
right.
He elite? Yeah, this is as good a situation as any quarterback can have, and he's not. He's taking advantage of it, but he's not necessarily dominated in it.
Would you guys rather have Purdy or Tua?
I think Purdy's going to be in San Francisco for a long time.
I don't think Tua's leaving Miami. The problem is like, yes, Tua's got better talent around. Purdy's got better talent around him. The problem is that when they eventually have to pay Purdy, McCaffrey's going to be at that point in his career where it's probably starting to hit the downside.
Are they going to pay Ayuk this year?
The same for Kittle. Yeah, but they can pay Ayuk right now because Purdy's on such a cheap deal, so they can keep this intact.
Yeah,
this is a tough one. I think I'd rather have.
I think a nice tiebreaker is you with the schedules rest of season. You definitely rather have Purdy rest of season, right?
Oh hell yeah!
And you'd probably rather have Purdy next year.
But for Dynasty, I think it's an interesting dilemma.
I would lean Purdy.
Yeah.
All right, let's read some of your emails. Some questions about lineup decisions for Fantasy Week 15 from Donovan in a town west of Culver City, California.
It's hard to get west of Culver City, California.
Honolulu.
Let's go with Waikiki, Hawaii.
There you go. Dear Paulie, Jimmy, Henry, and Tommy. Oh, I don't know.
Goodfellas?
Oh, yeah, I think so. Choose 2 PPR flex and tight end. First of all, tight end, Likely or Ferguson?
Ferguson.
And then Odell, Hollywood Brown, Ty Chandler. I suppose you could put Likely in there as well. Odell, Likely, Hollywood Brown, and Ty Chandler, pick 2.
Chandler and Odell.
Yeah, and I guess Madison could still play, right?
Yep.
I have Likely in full PPR with Odell.
I think if Madison plays, I'd probably just go Likely.
Yeah, I mean, then you're tying yourself to two Ravens, which is not bad as we saw last week, but could be.
Yeah, maybe I should diversify.
No, I would start both Ravens. I would start both Ravens if Madison plays. Madison's out.
Oh yeah, right.
This Jacksonville defense has been a disaster.
Chandler.
Yeah, it has. All right, from Aaron. Aaron? No, it's only Eric. I need to start 3 of these 5 wide receivers: Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamar Chase, DJ Moore, Chris Olave, Rashee Rice. Pick 3.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, Moore, and Olave.
That's how I have it ranked.
I would go Amon-Ra St. Brown, Moore, and Chase.
Any hesitation with Moore against the Browns?
No.
None.
Not really.
This is from Mike in St. Louis. 10-team PPR. I need 2 running backs and a flex. Kamara, Breece Hall, Achane, James Conner, Aaron Jones, Ezekiel Elliott. Pick 2 of them.
The first 2 running backs.
Kamara and Hall.
Kamara and Zeke.
All right, and then for your flex, you've got Achane, Connor, Aaron Jones, either Zeke or Hall, or Chris Olave against the Giants.
Hull.
Elliott.
Yeah, Elliott.
So we chose the same
3
3
running
guys.
backs either
Yeah.
way.
Okay, can you help me out with a tough one from Matthew here? Keaton Mitchell, Antonio Gibson, Ty Chandler, or Jerry Jeudy, PPR?
Gibson if there's no Robinson.
I thought you liked Chandler better.
Yeah,
I
but
like
if
your
Robinson
Chandler.
plays, then you like
Yeah.
Chandler.
If everybody's out, I'll take Chandler over Gibson.
Okay. And then you can make your decision based on the availability of Madison, or if Madison plays, you go to Gibson. If Robinson plays, it's easy. You go to Chandler. But if Madison, okay, and then let me ask you this. If Madison and Robinson both play,
Mitchell.
Keaton Mitchell?
It's PPR.
Yeah.
I go Gibson.
All righty. Washington against the Rams this week. All right, that's it for today's show. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow with Starter Sit for the AFC home games. Have a good one.